Wes Saunders. Not everyone has an automobile or the time and money required to reach our national and provincial parks, a place in the sun. Much of the difference between communities, of course, depends upon their intelligent provision of open spaces. Ideally, every family should have access to a park big enough for all-day excursions, a wooded area, a protected place where flowers grow, a clear stream, and perhaps a pool. In the next 30 minutes, you'll learn how the city of Lloydminster, with the help of $8.1 million from the Alberta Heritage Trust Fund, will develop a 200-acre major urban park. It's to be known as the Bud Miller All-Seasons Park. It will provide a wide range of outdoor recreation opportunities for generations to come. The province of Alberta announced the Major Urban Parks program in the 5 cities of Grand Prairie, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Red Deer, and of course Lloydminster. Funding for the program, more than $57 million, comes from the Alberta Heritage Trust Fund. What was the purpose of the open space study initiated by the city back in March of '82?
Actually, it was to find out how we would tie the rest of the city, the open spaces in the city together so that you could have easy access, whether you were on a bike or a walking trail, between the various parks and areas in the city, and eventually tying also into our urban park.
What were some of the recommendations of that study?
One is to have a main corridor linking the east side of the city to this park by way of the easement just north of Stuart Ford Merck.
The area designated for the urban park site encompasses about 464.8 acres. A site of about 185 acres will be prescribed within this area. Recently, the need for a Lakeland College campus site was identified. A master plan study suggests it would be appropriate to locate the campus adjacent to the park, since the use of the campus and its own landscaped areas could complement the use and appearance of the urban park. At present, there are 4 access roads to the site: 59th and 75th Avenues, and 29th and 36th Streets. Major routes through the city are Highway 16 and 17. They eventually access the site via arterial and local roads. The urban park can be classified as city and regional level open space, with a service radius of up to 1 hour driving time. The population of this service area is projected to increase from about 60,000 in 1981 to over 80,000 at the turn of the century. What happens now when the city does annex the property? What type of zoning will it have?
Well, the type of zoning that the city will go under would be under urban park or park zoning itself, Wes.
All right, now, what are the concerns of the county other than annexation?
Well, one of the concerns that any neighboring municipality has is in annexation is whether the body or concerning body needs the land or whether they're just trying to bank land. And this is one of the things that we felt at the first stage, was that it looked to us like it was banking, but after the presentation here that the city gave, we felt that they were able to carry out their stages and in the zoning part.
Do you feel, as a representative of the county, that there was sufficient input as far as the public meetings were concerned?
Well, Wes, any landowner on annexation was notified, and they could bring their objections to the county, and we heard none of this whatsoever, so we felt that they were in agreement with the annexation.
3 design concept alternatives were developed for the site. On the basis of evaluation, the sub-center concept was the most appropriate design for the site. The park center concept was a close second. The public display of the concept alternatives and public response through the questionnaires favored the park center concept, with the center sub-center as second. And with some revisions to the development program, a slightly modified park center was selected by the Urban Park Committee as the basis for the master plan concept.
We tried to get as much public input into the park plan as possible, and first of all the committee sat down and decided how they want to go about it, what they would like to suggest to the public. The design or the planners came back with their suggestions, their various alternatives, their concepts. We took it to the public, asked them to tell us what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, which one they preferred. At the first public meeting, they presented briefs telling us what they wanted to see in the park. Some of these were verbal, some were written out. The next public display we had in the mall. We had excellent public participation. Many people came in and wrote down what they liked about it and what they didn't like about it, how they'd see it changed if they had their way. And we were very pleased with the input in this one.
The written briefs, questionnaire results, and of course comments at the public meetings supported the basic purpose and functions of the urban park. A variety of activities and facilities were used to revise and develop park theme, which is multi-use outdoor recreation. Francis Barnsley, a Lloydminster senior, attended those meetings and has some thoughts on the subject.
I feel that we have some cities that are just a pile of concrete. We have one or two beautiful cities close by. I think that if they had if we just think of the large cities, of what London would be without Hyde Park, of what Vancouver would be without Stanley Park, or Victoria without Beacon Hill, or the Uplands Golf Course. If somebody had not thought nearly 100 years ago that they needed these things, the cities would have been the worse for it, and Canada would have been the poorer for it.
Do you think that the city councils of the present and past have been far-sighted in tackling a project of this nature?
Oh, I certainly do. I admire their courage. I think both of the councils, the present and past, they were very courageous to accept this grant, because with it goes responsibilities. When they had so many other things, the water and sewer problems, but this is something they'll feel very good about for many years to come, I'm sure.
North America's center of industrialization in 1785 was the city of New York. The population then was 23,614 and had just undergone a major repopulation after the American Civil War. The well-being of its citizens was a concern about 200 years ago. Well, 60 years later, Central Park was created to improve urban environments for the common folk. Ted Muller of EDA Collaboratives Incorporated takes us on a guided tour of the Bud Miller All Seasons Park.
Okay, we're looking now at the main entrance itself, coming into the site from 29th Avenue. As we sweep around, we begin to look at what will become the major picnic area on the site of the park. Free play area, picnic sites, this sort of thing, on up into the edge of the bush, where there'll be picnic sites again in amongst the bush. Much of the underbrush will be cleared away. And much of the underbrush that you see there in the photograph will be cleared to provide access roads into it, and beyond into the back area itself will be cleared for additional picnic sites.
Ted, we're standing just west of the entrance here at the site. What do we have now to our immediate left?
Immediate left of us, Wes, is in fact a roadway entering into the site, just following the major ridge line. And off into the distance you can see where the actual park center and most of the development within the park will be occurring. Tennis courts, these sorts of things. As we move off to the right, towards the bush itself, will be a playground area set into the edge of the bush, both in and outside the bush. Playground areas, softball diamond, soccer, this sort of thing. And then as we move around down into the area directly in front of us here will be an energy interpretation area. We've used the word Stonehenge to interpret that, and we'll be oriented towards solar aspects, these sorts of things, but generally looking at the overall use of energy in society. Okay, what we're looking at then would be the formal garden area itself. Mazes, formal plantings of flowers, this sort of thing, very manicured in nature within the protected zone there. As we move around to the area in the foreground here where the lull area is, would be a lawn bowling area is what we're projecting for this use. Moving along, some smaller knolls in that, which will be seeded and grass berms areas, maybe some areas for sunning in that, on into the major lake area, which although isn't there, the water that you do see there is in fact in the distance farther off the site. The oil pumping area is in fact way off the site also. As we move around to the area itself, will be the actual park center, or major structure of the site, housing most of the indoor facilities to be accommodated on the site. Be a hard, intensive landscaped plazas, amphitheater, seating areas, major arrival points itself. Looking at a number of different functions happening within the area around the park center, most intensively used anyway. And that again moves around and moves into the actual area where the tennis courts would be, which is cut into the edge of the bush itself.
We're now standing in the main nature area. There are some other nature areas in the park, but were there any changes made here?
Not really, Wes. In fact, what we'd be looking at is enhancement through additional planting, trying to encourage some wildlife to come back into this area. Although it was wet in the past, it is drier than we'd like to see it right now, but hopefully we can encourage some more diversity through the introduction of plant material and try to encourage some of the species that may have been there in the past to come back again. There'll be a number of trails developed here for interpretation by local community groups, schools, this sort of thing, and a shelter and nature interpretation building of some sort or another that hasn't been finalized, actually where we're standing right now. So in fact, providing access out into this area as a whole, probably some plaques of some sort interpreting it, and generally retaining the area as you now see it.
Today, many Canadian communities are growing up without direction. One development jostling another without regard for anything beyond using the land for houses and apartments. There should be contact with nature, quite apart from schools and other athletic grounds, tot lots, and playgrounds. Lloydminster MLA Bud Miller has the honor of having his name attached to the All Seasons Park.
I think this is one of the prime objectives of these urban parks, is to be able to provide our citizens with natural areas that are easily accessible to the people in many instances that can't take time off or having the financial ability to be able to go to other areas. So we're in effect bringing the parks to the people. And it's something that is a family concept. We hope that it'll be utilized for the benefit of the whole community. And when I speak of community, I don't just mean the city of Lloydminster, I mean all the surrounding areas, because there's going to be something here for everybody.
How is the development and maintenance of the park being phased in?
Well, we took this into consideration, and as you know, the capital cost of this park is in the neighborhood of $6 or $7 million. The first 2 years when the development is taking place, we pay 100% of what you might call the operating costs. After that, it's phased down to 75%, and then continues on at 50% of the operating costs, up to I think it's a maximum of 10% of the actual capital costs of developing the project. This is a grant that'll be given to the city in order for them to maintain the park in good condition.
How is the theme multi-use outdoor recreation established? What was the input on that?
Well, basically, the city of Lloydminster and Dave Dimitrition did an excellent job of having input from all the people. I think that during the past year, that every organization, every individual, and anybody that wanted to could make representation as to what they wanted in this urban park. And then all this information was assembled together. There was a committee structured of people from within the city, as well as Doug Cherry from the county of Vermilion River, who sat down and developed this comprehensive plan. And certainly there's been many, many hours of voluntary, what you might say, work, plus city staff who spent a lot of time developing the theme so that there would be something for everybody, and it's something of which the city and this part of Alberta can all be proud of.
The Bud Miller All Seasons Park, how do you feel about that name?
Well, I was overwhelmed, actually, Wes, when it was suggested that I would be given this great honor, and I certainly want to express my appreciation to all the people, because It's something that was totally unexpected, and I'm so proud that it's being given this name, and I just want to thank everybody concerned with the project.
The 7-member Urban Park Committee provided guidance and advice in formulating the park plan. One of those committee members is Dave Demetrician, Superintendent of Recreation. Just exactly what are the services and conveniences available to the public here at the All Seasons Park?
Well, some of the things that we'll be including west are still sort of on the design board, but what we're looking at is in the building to have a concession booth as well. With the lake being there, we'd have possibly skate rentals, cross-country ski rentals, as well. A lecture room would be hopefully be able to be designed in for people to learn more about the park and some of the features of the park. Things such as washroom facilities, picnic table areas, and other miscellaneous sales of items that would help them enjoy the park that much more.
One of the interesting features of the urban park is the aquatic playground. What does that comprise?
Well, the aquatic playground will be sort of the traditional playground or paddling pool made into sort of a more up-to-date, more effectively operated type of a facility where people, particularly children, would be able to use a water play area with such things as hopefully slides and sprays and those sorts of things that would be more fun for the children than the splashing. We've been into creative playgrounds in Lloydminster for quite a number of years. Throughout our parks, we've tried to develop wooden play structures. I think the thing that we'd be looking at in this particular project would be something a little bit different than what exists in the community, but with the standard design that would blend in with our construction and other features of the park, I mean wood structures. As well, I would hope activities that would take place on the playground that would be of interest to everything from handicapped children to preschoolers to just about the 10, 12-year-old.
One important feature, I think, right next to the center itself will be a recreation lake. What's going to be happening on that lake?
Well, we're looking at a 3 to 5 acre lake. Design guidelines by the end of June will really determine exactly how big it'll be. But it'll be something that will be aesthetically pleasing, will be used for skating in the wintertime, fishing in the summertime. Back to some of the services at your earlier question, will hopefully be included, as well as paddle boating, possibly rentals to the public, canoeing, and as well, you recall in the plans, picnic sites being fairly close to the lake, so the aesthetic features will make it nice to be around the lake. One of the other things, in talking to Graham Boyce from ID Engineering, it looks like we'll probably have to supplement water through wells, so there will probably be some sort of a fountain or a spray of some sort that will be required to keep the water clean. So that'll as well add to the aesthetic features.
There's a great deal of natural marsh area in this urban park. How will that fit into the scheme of things?
Well, the marshy land area will serve as, I think, as far as the outdoor education process for the school students. The public school and Catholic school board have both expressed keen interest in this park, and so it will have various features developed so that students can study what's there, as well as the recreationalist who wants to go for the casual walk in the outdoors will make it quite attractive to them. As well, we have had discussions with the Fish and Game League and possibility of different types of wildlife being added to that area of the park, and hopefully something that'll be a little bit different for the residents.
Now, how is this going to be implemented? Where do we start first?
Well, we've gone through the master plan stage, and I think we've had a fair amount of discussion about that throughout the program. And as now where we're at is the detailed design, and council has approved EDA Collaboratives, our landscape architects, and ID Engineering, our engineering firm, to prepare the detailed design, and that will be completed a certain phase of it will be completed by the end of June, and the lake design will start. The detailed lake design will start right after that, and with construction to start in September. As well, the buildings, council has approved the architect, Wolfenden Group from Edmonton, and Bill Hamilton has started the building designs. And from there, the remaining detailed designs will be completed throughout the winter, fall and winter of '83 and '84, and the remainder of the park hopefully to be completed in '84, but with the lake and buildings and some of the landscaping being done in fall of '83.
When a young person goes for a stroll or paddles his canoe in a nature park, he realizes he is not merely an observer of nature, but a part of nature. His troubles grow petty, not because they are unreal, but because they dissolve within the larger plan. Unless natural outdoor spaces remain, young people are denied their instinctive wanderings. Lloydminster's Mayor Bill Condro is enthusiastic about the new Bud Miller All-Seasons Park.
We want to get at it this year because the market seems to be in an area and a trend whereby costs are coming in lower than expected or normal and smaller than past. So we want to get at it and get going this year.
Now, there are two projects that are on people's minds quite a bit here in Lloydminster with respect to the urban park, and that is an indoor pool and Lakeland College campus. How do you see those fitting into the project?
Well, of course, the indoor pool, first of all, the park is being designed so that an indoor pool can be put into it. Nothing is on the books for this year. In our 5-year budget, I think you'll find that there will be some dollars set aside each year for a pool contribution to get the project started. But I repeat, it's been the park has been designed so that a pool can be incorporated into it. Secondly, the matter of the Lakeland College, we have, as council, taken the decision back in December that some area to the adjacent area to this could be made available to Lakeland College, and it would fit because then both groups would use the same facilities or some of the same facilities.
Mm-hmm. Survey results and written briefs submitted by a variety of groups and individuals emphasized programs and activities rather than facilities for the park. Only elementary facilities will be needed for most programs.
I think that probably when we look at it as a whole, Lloyd is a growing city. Maybe 20, 30 years from now it'll be 50,000, maybe 75,000. I am very pleased that the park is where it is because at some time it'll be surrounded by housing. What I would like to see is that there be roads within the park with a limited speed limit, that the noise factor be kept down. We do the best we can to beautify the park, particularly with evergreens and annuals, have walking areas, maybe biking areas. And I think that is a very good start for the moment, and these other things will fall in place as the years go by.
In its simplest form, the All Seasons Park is perceived as a new focus for outdoor recreation activities for the residents of Lloydminster and the region. The park is planned to accommodate up to 16,550 people for special events, and on an average weekend, up to 4,900 people are expected. There will be preservation and enhancement of the natural features of the park. Healthy tree stands will be retained. Identified natural areas will be replanted with indigenous plant species. Why should we go to all the trouble and expense of preserving parks and open spaces? Well, because life depends on it. Today, it's necessary for mankind to regulate his use of resources and to manage Earth's remaining capital more creatively if he is to survive.